Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We have the famous Jim Brown, the designer of the Windrider 17. We're going to go through all his thoughts here, and we're going to go over the design, the origins of the Windrider 17. We're actually sitting in his Windrider 17 right now. It's the turtle.
Box turtle.
The box turtle. But we're going to sit down. We're going to discuss the origins, the design, what was bad, what is good. And hey guys, my name's Ziggy, and I'm out boat camping the barrier islands of the Gulf of Mexico. So jump aboard, because I'm going to take you bastards sailing. That's great for that.
That's great. I'm glad you've done that.
Fold over keels. That's the next one on the list.
Well, okay, so some of the boats that came out of some of the builders, some of the manufacturers, did not have that vertical post that runs between the bottom of the after crossbeam down through the floor and into the keel, right about at your knees.
Mm-hmm.
When you're sitting in there steering, the boat requires that vertical tubular post that goes down through the floor and into the keel. If it doesn't have that, and you pull the boat up on the beach, not on the trailer, but on the beach, and let it sit there with the sun shining on it, the plastic gets goosey in the heat and the keel will fold over.
I can see that. All right.
Especially if you leave the hatch covers off and it rains, it gets full of water, weighs thousands of pounds, and
Yeah.
it'll fold that keel over. Now,
I never thought about that.
It's not as bad as it sounds. Because the goofy thing about polyethylene is that now if you can get the boat out off of the beach and pull it up on its trailer and let it sit there in the sun for a few days, the keel will come back to almost where it belongs.
That's crazy.
The polyethylene has a memory.
Uh-huh. I have a friend that cut that post out too, so you'll be interested to hear that.
Well, it's okay if you have a trailer that supports the weight of the boat under the crossbeam.
That's what he does.
Yeah. Okay, what else have we got?
We're down to hatch cover, trampoline, fold, mast stepping.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people have trouble, at first anyway, stepping their mast. And there's a lot of ways to do it, huh?
Yeah, you're doing it by hand, and it comes off that little ball.
Yeah.
You see Jesus for a second.
Yeah. Well, that little ball where the socket on the mast base fits over the socket on the mast step, there's a place to put a pin through there.
Right.
So it can't come off of the ball.
Then it breaks the foot, though.
Yeah. We don't use the pin.
No,
Please, don't use the pin.
I tell people on my thing, don't use the pin. They say, when do you put it in? I says, I got it clipped up on the boat. It's on the boat for whatever reason back today, but I never use the pin.
Yeah.
Because the one time I did, it broke a little piece off that little tab off that thing.
And now you got to get a whole new mast.
Yeah, and then they're like almost not available now. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that if you had one and you knew you had a gifted welder, that he could build that up out of weld.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure. So, stepping, people are afraid they're going to drop the mast during the stepping operation.
Mm-hmm.
And if they do, that's when the pin breaks. The pin, because in order to get the pin, to get the mast up and down with the pin in there, the mast has to be rotated so it's lying flat, and you have to get it up. You have to get it up high enough in the flat down on deck position. You have to get it high enough so that you can then turn it to face fore and aft for hoisting it up the rest of the way and pulling on the jib stay to hold it up there. So anyway, don't use that little pin. But if you're going to put the mast up by hand, if you're going to stand in the cockpit or stand on the gunnels to the cockpit, which is the way I've seen it done very effectively by sure-footed young men.
Yeah, I'm going to say that's...
yeah. Push the mast toward the mast step, toward the socket. You got to push on it as you start to lift it up. And as soon as you get it up about 45 degrees or so, its own weight will hold it on.
Yeah, that'll work it.
Yeah, and there's several other ways of stepping it except by hand. You know, people with back trouble and stuff like that have figured out nifty ways to get the mast up.
I've got the Windrider supplied little derrick, little A-frame.
Uh-huh.
And then it comes with the block and tackles, but I just put it to the crank on the trailer.
Yeah.
And then I just sit there and you can just take your time and
wind it
walk
up.
it right. Yeah, because I got scratches all over my mast where it did break loose back when I was doing it with my hand. I was like, I'm not paying $500 for that mast raising thing. That maybe broke loose and came down, and when it comes down, it's like things are happening. And boom, and I says, $500 is a damn good deal. And I went and bought it, and I love it. But after I got it, I would have made my own if I'd actually realized what I was looking at. It's pretty simple to do it,
Yeah. And I've seen it done several ways. Clever systems worked out by the owners. One guy who had a lot to do with designing the accessories in the Windrider, he worked for the company, but he had a neuro something condition that made it impossible for him to put out a lot of physical force. And so he and his wife devised a way that was really simple. They would simply take the cable off of the reel on the trailer, wind it all the way out, and then tie a knot there in the hook of the cable in the pulling end of the cable, and take that to the halyard at the mast step. Otherwise, the cable's not long enough.
Okay, yeah.
Take that to the halyard that's been pulled all the way up to the masthead.
Right.
So you got a cable that you can crank on from the. He moved the mast crank to the top of that stanchion on the trailer.
Right. The crutch for the mast up there.
Yeah, and it doesn't seem like you'd have enough of angle. It'd be a really steep angle. But his wife would go out to the other end of the mast and just hold it up as high as she could.
Give it a little bit, yeah. And now I've learned what I've done over the years is when I step the mast, you do that like before I put my motor on. I step the mast because if it does come down, I won't whatever it's going to land on to a minimum.
Yeah.
But since I've gone to that A-frame derrick, which is the same concept, I've never had a problem.
Well, I've dropped mine from shoulder height, and it fell down right on the after crossbeam, and I thought sure as heck it was going to buckle, but it didn't hurt.
It didn't? Good.
The reason it didn't is that the mast extrusions for the Windrider 17 were designed for the rave, the hydrofoil.
Oh, yeah, the hydrofoil.
So they put a lot more metal.
It's a stout mast. It really is.
So it's essentially unbreakable.
Yeah.
I think you could really abuse the mast without breaking it. And as the mast is going up, when you're pulling it up, I think it's important to realize that as the shrouds come down to the side of the boat and divide at that bridle that's about 4 feet up, the shrouds divide into a bridle. Hook up the after bridles only, not the forward ones. Even on one of them, hook up only the after bridles. And now, as you pull the mast up, it means that the shrouds are much too long. And the mast is going to want to wobble over against one extra long shroud or the other. But when it comes up toward a vertical, now it will fall forward by itself because the shrouds are extra long.
Right.
And it'll hang there. Now, it's pretty stable right there. You can get out of the boat or go get a hold of the jib stay and pull it up and hook it onto the bow, and then hook up the forward portions of the bridle.
All right. Yeah, I generally just take one of them off.
Two
would work too.
Especially if the boat's on the trailer.
You've got to get one off in order to get to this. I got a side stanchion to the mast goes on, so you got to get the opposite corner off, or it won't let it go over there.
Oh yeah.
So I always do the opposite corner, and it works out well.
Well, I don't want anybody to get hurt by dropping a mast, but it's very unlikely that the mast is going to fall on the way up. It'll seem really goosey, It'll seem like it can swing from side to side if both of the forward bridles are not attached. But when you think about it, it really can't fall.
It's not going. And it always spooks you when you get up there and it's coming up and it swings. It can swing way over.
Yes.
And until you get comfortable with it, that doesn't matter. Just keep rolling it up. It'll get there. But when it swings, when the first time it swings really wide, the breeze will take it.
Yes.
And it seems a lot, but it's just fine out there.
But if you have your crew, your wife or somebody out there holding the thing up to start with, she wants to back up, before you get the thing up very high, because it could conk you.
Oh, when it comes to that one that came down when I was doing it, things start moving faster, and it's not a heavy mast, but when it's falling, it's all of a sudden there's some weight, there's some, you don't try and catch it, get the hell out of the way. Just stand back.
So there was something else I was going to mention about mast stepping. I've seen some owners become zealous about getting the rigging tight.
Right.
When you sail a Windrider 17, it's normal for the shroud on the downwind side to be very loose.
Oh, it'll flap.
Yeah, it's normal. Don't worry about it. You don't have to set the rig up so tight that it doesn't do that, because you can't set it up tight enough so that it won't do that. Let it flop around. It's okay. And when you're at rest, when the boat's at rest, sitting on the trailer or at the dock or on the beach, wherever, when the boat's at rest, the rigging should be slack enough so you can grab one of the shrouds and wave it around about that far. Don't set it up tight, just snug. Because if you set it up really tight, what you're really trying to do is pull down hard on the mast.
You're pulling out,
You're pulling down on the mast and pulling up on the bow with the jib stay. And in time, that'll cause the boat itself to change shape. It'll hog the boat, as the sailor says, hog.
Okay.
Especially if you leave it out in the sun sitting on the beach.
Now,
it's on the trailer, it's okay.
Here's one to throw at you. Now, I've seen people that want to rake the mast back, so they switch the front and back shroud connections to bring the mast back. Do you think that really makes a difference? People say it sails better.
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, just so long as the boom doesn't get too low.
Yeah, because it's going to bring the boom with it.
So if the mast comes back, the boom comes with it, and you want to make the boom clear your head by plenty while you're sitting in the after cockpit. But by raking the mast back, we take care of the problem. There is a problem. Another problem that results from the designer dealing with the manufacturer is that the keel on the bottom of the boat is a little bit too long. It comes aft a little too far. And so the boat, if the mast is vertical, the boat tends to sail sometimes, especially in light air, with a little lee helm. That is, if you let go of the foot pedals, the thing will bear off the wind by itself. Strictly speaking, that's okay in a multi-hull.
Yeah.
But experienced sailors don't like it. They want it to head up by itself.
Right.
And that's here we go again. We're getting off to the side here, but one thing that it takes a while for a classic sailor. Like when I came into multi-hulls, I already had a lot of monohull experience in big boats, and whenever in a big boat, whenever you get a big gust, the tendency was to try to round up, to take the heeling effort off of the boat.
Right.
That's not the way to do it in a multi-hull. If you get a terrible gust, round down quickly. Bear off the wind as hard as you can. On that foot pedal, you want to push on the upwind foot pedal. And get that baby to, I said that wrong. you want to push on the downwind foot pedal. And get that
as I sit in my head, doing it in my head, like, wait, what?
And as soon as you bear off the wind too far so that the sail will stall, that is, the airflow around the sail is broken up by it having it trimmed with too much angle of attack, and all of a sudden the heeling effort comes off of the boat. But for an experienced sailor, it takes gumption to bear off in a big gust.
Right.
But that's really the way it's done in multi-hulls.
I know it took me because the trimming's just a little different than a mono hull.
Yes.
And it's taken me a while to really get used to that. Not by much, but a little bit. When you just get on it, you just got to remember that it's just a little different.
Yeah, don't sail it too tight.
Yeah.
Until the wind starts blowing hard enough for you to be going fast, and then you can pull it in as tight as you want.
Right.
But for just normal wind force, 10 knots or less, don't try to pinch the boat. It'll stop.
I tend to pull it in too tight, and I have to. My buddy come up, pull that out a little bit. He's out there looking at it from a distance. Let that out a little bit. Oh, here we go. Here we go. But just out of instinct, I tend to try and trim it a little too tight.
Anyway, this keel, here's the reason that keel is a little too long. It was 5 inches shorter in the original design. That's my watch talking to me. It was a little bit shorter, didn't come back as far under your seat.
Mm-hmm.
So at about the time that we were going through all of this prototyping, this 17-footer went through 4 stages of prototyping. It was really expensive to try to get it right, and the problem was that marketing got in the act. The first prototype phase that we went through, the boat was supposed to be a 2-seater, 2 people.
Mm-hmm.
But before we got it finished, and we had already had it in the water and sailed it in prototype form.
Okay.
But before it was ready to go for having the final molds made, thank God they got us in time. They said, no, we've decided that if it's going to be 17 feet long and carry 2 people, it better damn well carry a family of 4.
Okay.
So we had to change the hull form. Yeah, that was just the first thing.
Mm-hmm.
The next thing was marketing said, we want to be able to sell the boat without a jib.
Okay.
Because the jib furler is expensive. And if we include the jib furler, we can't sell it for $5,000. So we got to be able to sail it without a jib.
Okay.
And I said, hey, you guys, this is,
Yeah.
Nobody's going to want that boat without its jib. And he said, it's okay. They can buy a jib after if they want, but we want the entry-level price to be less than $5,000. So, okay, I had to move the keel back because of no jib.
All right.
And now you put the jib on and you got lee helm.
Okay.
And so you can pretty much deal with the lee helm if you rake the mast all the way back.
All right. I might have to try that.
Yeah.
So I've known several people do it. There's a cult of people that do that. They really like it.
Yeah, it'll sail a little bit better to windward with the mast raked back. And there have people have made all kinds of other improvements too. They've one of the interim manufacturers decided they wanted the boat to be wider, so the outer portion of the crossbeam was made longer, which meant that when you folded it in for trailering, it was 9 feet 1 inch wide. It was over legal.
Right.
And they were selling the thing. I said, hey, you guys have got a serious liability problem here. If somebody sideswipes one of those floats sticking way out there like that, they could sue the living daylights out of you. And I said, oh yeah, we didn't. That's right. So okay, so they brought it back in. And then one of the other guys decided to move the float forward. I don't know, it was 5.5 inches or something like that. And that's Bruce Matlack.
Yeah. I've talked to him.
Yeah. Bruce says, oh, that makes a tremendous difference in the boat.
Yeah, he told me 4 inches. 4 inches, he told me.
Yeah. It doesn't make enough difference to put in your eye.
Yeah.
He thinks so.
Yeah, I've looked at him and think, well, I'm going, you know what, I'm good with where it's at.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, all of these things came up in the prototyping. The first thing they wanted us to be, really wanted us to be able to use the floats off of the 16-footer on the 17-footer. And Mike McGarry and I, who were working on the prototypes, we said, hey, we can't do that, man. We got to have bigger floats for the 17-footer. No, it'll save us a whole lot of money. We already got the molds and underutilized and all that stuff. And so we had to go ahead and build a boat and put the small floats on it and sail it and show them that it wasn't enough float for the boat. And they said, oh, well, okay, I don't know how many thousands of dollars that cost them. And so it sounds like I'm being critical of Andy Zimmerman and his partner, John Shepard, when I say that the experience of a designer working for a manufacturer is totally different than it is for working with the backyard builders. The backyard builders, they were much easier to deal with. They would ask you before they went and did something.
All right, all right.
And you could usually explain to them why that might not be a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
But the manufacturers, man, either the bean counters or their urge to be creative in the design, to participate in the conceptual stages of the boat.
Yes.
That was not always compatible with what the designer thought the boat ought to look like, and vice versa. That is, the designer didn't really know what the boat builder could sell.
All right.
In fact, I've told this story before. Maybe some of you guys have heard it, but when it came to the Windrider 17, I asked Andy, okay, how traditional do you want it to look? And the 16-footer was not traditional in any way. It was a spaceship. You know?
Yeah.
But Andy said, he said, I don't care. I don't care if it doesn't even look like a boat, because I'm going to sell it to people who wouldn't consider having one otherwise. I want it to look nifty. I want people to want one because of the way it looks, but it does not have to be traditional. Well, a 17-footer looks a lot more traditional than the 16.
Yes, it does.
And as a matter of fact, if you look down in plan view on the deck, perimeter of the deck of the 17-footer, and go all the way to the seat back in the after cockpit, go all the way to there, take everything else away, just that deck profile, that comes right out of a 1700s Caribbean trading schooner.
Oh, all right, all right.
That rounded stern, very popular in the early,
Beautiful,
sailing
beautiful.
schooners. And it's got that stern sticking out behind it.
Yes.
You know, which is like, what's that? You know, it's like somebody put a big boot on backwards. But Joe Hudson, who was an artist, finally, when he looked at the new 17-footer, he said, Jim, it's really beautiful. Even the stern. Which was, you know, it really is an assault. It slaps you in the eye. If you're a traditionalist, you know, it slaps you in the eye. Big and fat and round, you know.
Oh, yeah, it jumps at you.
Because the guy's sitting so far back. What else have we got on?
Next, we're into the jib, sun cover, and a roll-up.
Oh, yeah.
And that will be on the next session, episode 6. So thanks for subscribing. I'll see you there, because I'm going to take you bastards sailing.